Let's continue with the 7 stages of death and death awareness. From an existential point of view, there are 7 kinds of deaths: the death of the fetus, the death of innocence, the death of the body, the death of the personality, the death of the individuality, the death of the outside world, and the death of identity. They follow in this order, but sometimes consciousness jumps more levels at once. You cannot imagine how the next level will be from your current level. You cannot even imagine that another level of consciousness exists beyond your current one. You are on the spiritual path of deaths and rebirths, until finally there is no more rebirth, only eternal life. All these levels can be achieved in just one physical lifetime. Birth is the first death. For the outside world, your birth seems to be a birth. However, from your perspective, your birth was a death. The world you had known so far ended abruptly. You had to leave behind all the comfort, safety, tenderness, and warmth of the womb. Before your birth, your whole world consisted solely of the womb. This forgotten world was paradise itself for you. You were living in complete happiness. Your birth was the biggest shock in your life, from which you still have not recovered. The consciousness of the fetus is followed by the consciousness of the baby. Even though you are not in the womb anymore, your consciousness is still rooted in oneness. You are a fresh, authentic, and innocent human being without any inner divisions. You don't know your name, you don't have an idea about your body, you don't have a concept of yourself. You are in a state of unconscious enlightenment. Between the age of 3 and 5, you start to develop an ego, and the inner division starts. The idea of I begins, and you separate this I from the world in your mind. You try to define yourself and find out who you are and who you are not. With the death of innocence comes the birth of the personality. With it, the fear of death is also born, because only the ego is afraid of death. Unconscious oneness shifts to conscious separation. This process is like the fall from the Garden of Eden. You lose unconsciousness, but with it, you also lose oneness. The forbidden fruit is the knowledge of the I, the idea of yourself. You are searching for this lost paradise all your life. You remember the feeling, but you don't have any conscious memories of it. You were once enlightened, and you want to be enlightened again. The secret is that you are still enlightened. You just have to remember it. The challenge is to move from unconscious oneness through conscious separation to conscious oneness. Thus, the ego is needed for this process, because consciousness cannot jump directly to its final destination. The problem is that most people get stuck in their personalities in between. This is the whole struggle of human nature. The death of the body can function as a forced enlightenment if you are prepared enough. If you get too scared, you will become unconscious just before your physical death and won't learn anything from the experience. If you are able to stay conscious, you can experience as you get separated from the body and from the personality all at once. The moment of physical death can be turned into ego death. Physical death can become the gate to immortality. But why wait until your physical death when you can transform yourself in this life? You don't know in advance how you will react at the moment of death. There is a high risk that you won't be able to use the situation to your advantage. Start separating yourself from your body and from your personality until it is not too late. Spiritual practice can bring about the death of the personality. The ego contains many things, including the idea of the body, your emotional life, your belief systems, and all the ideas about yourself. Your mind has been conditioned all of your life, and now you have to decondition yourself. So this process is usually the longest and the most complex, Besides the above difficulties, the problem is that you have to start the process from the ego. And the last thing the ego wants is its own death. When the personality is finally dead, your consciousness automatically shifts to your individuality. Now, your task is much easier because the voice of individuality is intuition. Intuition will automatically guide you to even higher levels of consciousness. Just let it function and follow its guidance. In the first phase, a master can help tremendously to kill your ego. The task of a master is not creation, but destruction. He needs to destroy all your illusions and wake you up from the sleep. But when your intuition starts functioning, your own inner master wakes up inside you and takes the place of the outer master. Living naturally according to your intuition and based on your individuality is beautiful. Not many people reach this stage, but you need to move even beyond this. The nature of your intuition is to lift you up even higher and move your consciousness above the level of individuality. This shift happens with the separation of the observed and the observer. You usually put all your attention on the object of observation, and you forget about the subject. You observe the world, but you forget that it is you who observes the world. By putting your attention to the observer instead of the observed, you will finally find yourself. When the death of individuality happens, you realize that you are not a person, not even a human, only the observer of your life. Your life is happening here in the marketplace, but you are there, the watcher on the hill. This is when definitions really start to melt away, and you step into the field of the unknown and the unknowable. You know that you are, but you don't know anymore who you are. You cannot define it, you cannot understand it, and you cannot describe it. You are a mystery. This is the death of death and the birth of immortality. With the death of the individuality, consciousness shifts to awareness. There is you as awareness, and there is the outside world that you are aware of. The next step is when the observed and the observer melt into one. First, you only observe the world, but you are unconscious of yourself. Then, you became conscious of yourself, and now the world becomes part of your consciousness. In this step, the world dies, and only awareness remains. You start to see the world as part of your own consciousness, as a creation of your own mind. This is the shift from duality to oneness. This is the experience of becoming one with everything. On the level of oneness, you say, I am everything. Only I exist. The world is an illusion. You identify yourself with awareness, but the identification itself still remains. Now there is only one process left, to delete the I from the phrase I am. When you succeed, only amness persists, only existence survives, and you finally completely disappear. Consciousness shifts to nothingness. Awareness becomes aware of awareness. The ocean melts back into itself. You will never be reborn again, but you will always be. Besides the 7 stages of death, I also identified 7 steps on the path from unconscious fear of death to spiritual enlightenment. The 7 stages of death awareness are the subconscious, the mental, the emotional, the existential, the experimental, the awakening, and the immortal stage. I will give you a short description of each, which will help you see where you are now and what still lies ahead of you. The first one is the subconscious stage. All other stages are conscious. As the name implies, death is only part of your subconscious mind at this stage and doesn't play a part in your conscious thoughts. You don't think about death at all. You occupy yourself with trivial things instead. Certainly, you are aware of your own inevitable demise, but you repress it into your subconscious mind. But one way or another, The thought of death will eventually arise. In fact, the media is so much full of death that it already has a desensitizing effect. You hear it in the news or read about it in the papers every single day. Almost in every movie, at least one person dies, but more often than not, several people lose their lives. In culture, death is seen as the biggest enemy. It gives the most dramatic effect to the plots of movies and books. However surrounded you are by death, you still remain very much detached from it emotionally. Death seems so far away from you, happening on the other side of the world, or just on the screen of the cinema. You are still unconsciously in the realm of wishful thinking, pretending that it can happen only to others, but not you. You see death far away from you in both space and time. For you, death is just a fickle of imagination, a future guest that you never want to invite in the first place. The matter is a little bit different when this mysterious, imaginary death becomes more real. When you lose somebody you know, the subject turns immediately more personal. You still manage to dodge the idea of your own death, though. How ironic that you feel sorry for the deceased, but not for yourself. You are simply not ready to hear about death, even if you hear him knocking next door. But you cannot deny that you heard his knock. Death has already touched your mind, and you start philosophizing about it. You gather your ideas, you create belief systems, and you try to make your best guess about the nature of death. You do all of these with the calmness and aloofness of a philosopher, as if you were beyond the touch of death. But you are not, you only wish to be. Pretending to be immortal is what calms you down and makes you emotionally numb. But this pretending is also exactly what prohibits you on a path of truly feeling immortal. On the mental stage, blindly believing in life after death is a popular way to deny death. However, believing that there is no life after death is also a huge mistake. Religious people believe in some kind of afterlife, while atheists believe in death. One side believes, the other side disbelieves, but they are both wrong. The question is not to believe or not to believe. The question is to believe or to know. The question is whether something is your own direct experience or not. Because when you believe, it means you don't really know. When you already know, you don't need belief at all. The next level of death awareness is called the emotional stage. I think it is very sad that most people reach this stage so late. You understand fully and deeply in your heart that you are also really going to die. When death knocks on your door, it touches your heart. Most of the time, this realization comes too late, though, when you become limited in your possibility to truly live. I believe you should invite death to your home instead of waiting for him to arrive. Certainly, I don't mean suicide. I mean you should let the thought enter your heart and turn into an emotion. It can change you immensely, and the sooner you do it, the better. This is when the repressed fear of death suddenly rushes into your consciousness and stirs your emotions. At first, you just stand there in disbelief. Maybe you just imagine the sound of the knock, or maybe it is somebody else, perhaps the neighbor. You simply cannot believe he really has come for you. You? Why you? And why now? No, there must be some misunderstanding here. You don't even take it seriously at first, but when death knocks again, you cannot deny it anymore. You freeze in a state of shock, and you want to run away, or you prepare to fight for your life. This is the moment when adrenaline rushes into your body, and your instinct takes over control. All your thoughts stop, and all your senses become sharp. Now this is already something. Now death is a question of life and death. Suddenly, it is not so far away, not some impersonal philosophical concept, not something to deal with in the future. Death is right here and right now. It is here for you, and not somebody else. This is what I call a death moment, the biggest aha moment in your life. After the initial disbelief and shock, you usually go through the stages of anger, bargaining, and depression until you finally accept the fact. You cannot pretend not to hear the knocks anymore. You become angry because somebody wants to take away your life and you haven't really lived yet. You become angry with God, angry with your destiny, and even with yourself. What an injustice. Along with anger, different emotions come up, like fear, anxiety, frustration, the desire for immortality, hope, and hopelessness. When you realize that you cannot hide and you cannot fight, you try a different strategy. Something you used on your parents as a child when you wanted to persuade them. You start bargaining with death. You promise him that you will be a good child. From now on, you will live a life worthy of saving. You want to postpone the meeting and win more time no matter what. But deep inside, you also recognize your faults. You see the good and the bad in your life. You see the things you regret doing, and even more, the things you regret not doing. You see how you wasted your life so far because you didn't really think this meeting will one day come. You ask yourself the following questions, like Brendan Burchard did when he almost died. Did I live? Did I love? Did I matter? If the answer is no, you want a second chance to turn it into a yes. When even this bargaining doesn't help, depression sets in. You cannot do anything to make death leave, but you cannot accept it yet. Hope turns into hopelessness, and you feel like a victim. The illusion of being in control of your life shatters. Spiritually, the ego feels weakened, almost mortally wounded. As it is built up from the outside, now it craves attention from others. It is crying out in despair for help because it senses its inevitable demise. But you should resist its temptation. This is your chance to separate yourself from it and let it go. The fear of death has finally surfaced, and you have to face it with courage. Let it lead you into the unknown. Let the darkness envelope you. Let the fear be with you for a moment. The unknown will turn into wisdom. Darkness will turn into light, and fear will turn into acceptance. The existential stage is when death touches not only your mind and your heart, but the innermost core of your being too. From a mental question, it transformed into an emotional one, and now it is an existential question. What is my true nature? What is my real purpose? Why do I exist? What is the meaning of life? What happens after death? These are not mere philosophical questions, like in the mental stage. You are not simply curious, you would die to know the answers. It is not just a mental game, you are authentically and sincerely interested in them. A burning desire for truth makes you an obsessed seeker. Everyday things seem so mundane now. You rose above the basic need for survival. You recognize that survival is ultimately impossible, and you search for something that will live forever against all odds. The existential stage starts when you realize at your deepest core that you will die, and you can do nothing about it. It is not simply giving up, it is beyond hopelessness. In hopelessness, you still desire to run away from death. You just don't know how. The real opposite of hopelessness is not hope, but the lack of resistance. The genuine acceptance of death arrives when all resistance to it disappears. This is the moment when real magic starts to happen. All your thoughts disappear because you admit to yourself that you don't really know death yet. All your emotions dissolve because you totally accept death and see it as a natural part of life. All your clever denial strategies recede because you cannot lie to yourself anymore. Even the fear of death evaporates, only pure death awareness remains. You may become a spiritual seeker, and your perspective will surely change. You set better values and more meaningful goals. You become motivated and inspired. You feel more compassion and love. You focus on giving instead of receiving, You know that you cannot take anything with you, so at least you want to leave something behind. If you reach this stage, it is almost a miracle, especially if you do it voluntarily. It is a beautiful place to be, peaceful and miraculous. Even if you don't go any further, I would really like you to attain this stage at least. However, you are only halfway on the full path, and I can guarantee you that there are many more wonderful transformations to come. After accepting death in its totality, the next one is the experimental stage. You experiment with it and you start to experience it. You cannot really know anything until you experience it on your own skin. Until now, your beliefs kept you away from searching the real knowledge. But now, your consciousness is as innocent as that of a child because you dared to admit that you don't know death. So far, the fear of death also kept you away from probing into this unknown territory. But now, there is no fear, only acceptance. You have always been curious, but at this stage, your curiosity finally wins over your fear and drives you to take the first step into the darkness. Even if death is not knocking yet, you open your door for him. Even if he is still on his way to your home, you are already waiting for him with open arms. Even if you are young, you are already preparing for the meeting. You don't rush it, and you don't postpone it either. You are simply ready for it every moment. In the experimental stage, the desire to live and the desire to die both disappear. The strong attachment to life dissolves, but it doesn't mean that you want to end it. You simply enjoy life without attachments, like a gift you didn't ask for. In fact, you enjoy it even more now, because you know that it will be over soon. First, you denied it, and you didn't believe it. Afterwards, you became scared and wanted to run away from it or fight with it. Later, you became depressed because you realized that there is no escape. Then, you finally accepted it. But in this stage, you not only accept it, but even welcome it and embrace it. You finally turn around to stand face to face with death. Death touched you, and now you want to taste it. You experiment with the thought more and more. What can it be like to die? What happens to my body? What happens to my soul? You can imagine your death, your funeral, and your cremation. You can take a walk in a cemetery to better ponder on these thoughts. You can try extreme sports to feel the rush of adrenaline caused by the proximity of death. From being a passive victim, you turn into an active seeker. While getting to know death, you also start to know life in its true sense. Not your fake life, not your life story, but the true meaning of life. Through discovering who you are not, you can discover who you really are. The culmination of the experimental stage brings forth the awakening. The awakening stage is both a process and a single moment that leads to your spiritual awakening. It is also called enlightenment, liberation, or self-realization. Through your deep inquiry into the nature of reality, a sudden shift of perception occurs. It is not a mysterious phenomenon. It is simply seeing life from another point of view. Until this moment, you see everything from the constrained view of your ego. It is almost like looking outside through only the keyhole instead of opening the door and stepping outside. The ego is everything that you think yourself to be. But you are not what you think about yourself, not what you have, not what you achieve, and not what you create. You are afraid to lose your identity, and this is why you are afraid of death. You have to disidentify yourself from your body, your emotions, your thoughts, and everything else you think about yourself. It is important to understand that the problem is not the body itself, but your identification with it. Don't deny your body. Don't be angry that you were locked up in this cage of flesh. Enjoy your body like a borrowed car that you know you will have to return one day. Become aware of the body. Move consciously and soon you will recognize that it is different from you. As you perceive your body, you will suddenly realize that you cannot be what you perceive. But the body is just the start. You have to release all attachments from your emotions, thoughts, memories, and beliefs. I know that this is not an easy process because it literally feels like dying. Immortology is the path of using the power of death to defeat death itself. By the end of it, your ego will die, but you will live on forever. After the awakening, you will know without any doubt that you will never really die. Your consciousness is in a spaceless and timeless state of oneness. You possess an authentic feeling of immortality, not just a belief. You already died once, so you cannot die again. The immortal stage is about integrating this wisdom into your everyday life. What happens after death? I don't know because I didn't die physically yet. Only the body dies, but I am not the body. I recognized this when I died psychologically at the moment I became enlightened. Then and there, one thing became crystal clear for me. Only I exist, and the world is an illusion. Maharaj, the great Indian sage, said that only that is real which doesn't change. Every single thing you experience is constantly changing, including your body and your personality. The only thing that is constant, the invisible thread that connects everything in a changing life, in a changing world, is your consciousness. Deep inside, you have always been the same, and you will always be. If this is true, then its opposite is also true. Only that which is real doesn't change. It is my first-hand experience that only consciousness is real. So, it cannot change. And as it is undeniably here and now, it won't go away. It was never born, and it will never die. I cannot remember a time when I was not, and I cannot imagine not being. Consciousness is not infinite, it is timeless. Enlightenment and immortality are interchangeable. Contemplating your own death is the most important method in immortology. Death awareness can be practiced every morning and every evening, separating 20 minutes from your day, sitting in your favorite meditation posture. But if you want to go even deeper into this technique, I recommend integrating it into your normal everyday life. This means that you should contemplate about death all through the day, whenever you can remember. After waking up, on the way to your work, at work, leaving work, being with your family, in your free time, and before going to bed. The deeper you can go into this technique, the more radically it will transform your life. When you go to bed, prepare for your sleep as if you would never wake up. In your mind, think through your life, remember all the great memories you collected, and say goodbye to your family and friends. Notice if you have anything left to do in this life. Search your soul for unforgiven episodes and suppressed emotions, and imagine what you would do otherwise next time. Forgive everyone, even yourself. Search for unrealized dreams and unfulfilled desires. When you don't find any of the above, you are completely ready. Ready to sleep deeply and completely, ready to die and not wake up anymore. You are content as you are. You don't have a desire to live, but don't have a desire to die either. You simply are without desires. When you wake up in the morning, be surprised that you are still here. Be grateful that you can enjoy this wonderful world for one more day. Look at it with the fresh eyes of a newborn child. Forget about the labels of the mind. Look at everything as if you saw it for the first time, because you really do. Even if you don't notice it, everything changes every second. Live every day as if it was the last one, because one day it will be. Live without repression, regret, hatred, postponement, and fear. If this was the last day in your life, how would you spend it? Think about this every morning after opening your eyes, and put your ideas into action with fresh energy. Your bed is a deathbed in the night and a cradle in the morning. Every day you die, and every day you are reborn. Not only every day, but every hour, every minute, and every second. Every breath is a death and a rebirth. Breathing in is life, breathing out is death. Every breath, every second could be the last one. Remember death in every moment to live your life fully in the moment. Death gives depth to life. Death gives value to life. Death gives meaning to life. Death gives the biggest motivation for action. You always postpone things because you think you have time. The problem is that you try to forget about death and act as if there will always be a tomorrow. But one day, tomorrow won't come. So do the things you want to do today, even if you cannot finish them in one day. Do the important things first, those that give meaning to your life. Start a bucket list and start crossing off the items today. You will regret the things you didn't do more than the things you did. I want you to die without any regrets and any desires, because then you don't have to come back again. Burn your desires through action instead of burying them in repression. That is the only way to be truly free from your desires. Burn the candle of life from both ends. Live an extreme life instead of a shallow one. Live as intensively as if your life depended on it. Because it does. Are you really living, or are you simply alive? Taste the world in its totality. Experience everything it can offer, and immerse yourself deeply in life. I want you to really live, not just survive. It is too late to start thinking about death when it is already knocking on the door. On your deathbed, you won't have the opportunity anymore to really live. Start remembering death at a young age, when you still have the energy and the possibility to live. My method is not for dying people only, it is for everybody. But anyway, everybody is already dying. If you feel that death is still far away from you, then this method is even more useful for you. Instead of avoiding death, search for the opportunities to meet death. Attend funerals and go to cemeteries more often. Instead of walking in a park, take a walk in a cemetery. Sit down on a bench and feel the atmosphere deep inside your bones. This will be your final destination, so why not get to know it a little better? Contemplate about all the people who are here. They were once alive just like you, breathing the same air, walking on the same ground. If you want, even lie down on the earth and imagine yourself covered by it. If you have physical possessions, write your will. Think about what you would like to leave behind you. What will be your legacy? Start working on something you want to leave for future generations. What is your most important message that you want to share? If you want to write a book, start it today. Speak to dying people about their attitudes to death. This can make the idea of death a touchable reality. Ask them what they would do otherwise in life and learn from their mistakes. I don't want you to be surprised by death, because then you will regret many things. I want you to be ready for death when he knocks on your door. I want you to be ready to leave everything behind without any attachments and let him lead you to the ultimate adventure. I want you to be able to open the door to death, face him with dignity, and accept that your time is over. I want you to lead such an intensive life, such a complete life, a life so full of experiences that nothing is left out. When you know life completely, you will want to know death too. Then death will be the ultimate experience, the crescendo of life, the last celebration. When you follow this kind of lifestyle, the more and more perfect moments you will experience. In these moments, you are totally in the here and now, and you are totally ready to die. When you feel that the moment is so perfect that if this was the last one, you would die happily. In moments when your mind is stopped by the awe of beauty. In moments when you are hugging your partner in mutual love. In moments when you meet your own reality, the perfect moments that you wish would last forever, in these perfect moments, you literally touch infinity. Every moment, it is always now. Every moment, there is this moment and nothing else. Time is an illusion caused by the egoistic consciousness. Time exists because of the memories and the projections of the ego. If you stop thinking about the past and the future, time disappears. When mind stops, time stops too. The moments you wished would last forever are the moments of infinity. When you can touch this moment without thinking about the past or the future, then you are in the present moment. The more time you spend in the eternal now, the more you can connect to your infinite being. Your whole life happens at only one point in time, in the eternal now. The whole book of your life is already written, and you are turning the pages one by one. With your present state of mind, it is impossible to see the whole book at once, so you need time to go through the pages. But when your body dies, you will be able to see and re-experience all your life in just one moment. People returning from death experience this strange phenomenon called a life review. So, one method of death awareness connected to time is to make a review of your life in your mind. You can even call for the help of the family photo album and start searching for your pictures as a baby and then as a small child. You will understand even more why it is absurd to identify yourself with the body. The body that is always changing and ultimately will die. As you are looking at the pictures, try remembering your very first memory of your life. As the first images come into your mind, you will be more and more attuned to this state of remembering. Go through the images without judging, letting them appear and then fading away. Not only see the memories, but remember the emotions as well. See yourself growing up in the eyes of your mind. What kind of movie do you want to watch when you die? A tragedy, a drama, a thriller, a comedy, an action, or a romance? Make sure that when your life flashes before your eyes, it is worth watching. Did you realize how fast your life went by? You can go through years' worth of memories in just seconds. Well, the life ahead of you, the time until your death, will fly away just as quickly. When you will look back at your life at the moment of physical death, life will seem just as short as now. That is why you cannot wait for anything. You cannot postpone anything worth doing until tomorrow. Put as much life in your life as you can today. Live every moment in its totality and hold nothing back. It doesn't really matter how much time you live, but how much you live in the time you have. The quality counts, not the quantity. You will only remember the moments you fully and truly lived. The moments spent in the eternal now will bring you closer to your own infinity.